Lisa here. Welcome back to my channel. Welcome if this is your first time joining me, and welcome to the 31 Days of Tarot. So if you don't already know, the 31 Days of Tarot is a series of journal prompts or VR prompts or prompts basically to talk about some of the highlights of the last year, even the last 10 years, depending on the prompt. These prompts are created by Ethany. I will link her video with the list of prompts in the description box down below or up in the cards or both, so that you can check this out for yourself. I would love to hear your guys' answers to these prompts as well. But today's prompt is going to be about the most memorable reading in 2019. Oh boy. So I want to talk about a client reading I gave. There's actually a couple that really sort of blew me away, and they both happened in the latter half of 2019. But the first one was a reading for a client who sat down across from me at the table. I began to shuffle her cards and ask her what her reading was about. And to be completely honest with you, I can't even remember her question exactly. What I remember is that when I first pulled a couple of cards, I felt a strong intuitive hit. It felt like I had been punched in the gut, and I knew that her husband had passed away and that he was trying to connect with her and get her a message. I have never, in 20 plus years of reading the tarot, had that experience before. And there was a me, even just a couple years ago, who had that thought popped in my head while I was reading for a client, would have squashed it and been like, that's insane. Like, that's insane. Just don't. I didn't even know if this woman had ever been married. And instead, I remember taking a deep breath and sort of centering myself and asking, can I interrupt you and just ask you a question? Are you married? And I wanted to say were, and I stopped myself. And she said, yes. And I know why you've asked me that, because I lost my husband just a couple of months ago. And I felt like for a moment my heart stopped. And the reading from that point, which I'm not going to get into, got so juicy and full and meant so much to my client, but also to me. It was a really profound experience, and it taught me to remember that intuition is a powerful, powerful thing. And when I listen to it, when I let it in, these miraculous moments can happen. And I think that sometimes this is the part that is easy to forget when my practice gets a little routine or a little, maybe something I take for granted a bit. And then I'll have these moments and I'll be like, oh yeah, that's where the magic is. And gosh, if I've learned anything over these past 20 plus years, I would say that I've learned that it's not always what you expect. I started out reading the tarot from this very sort of intellectual, grounded, sort of logical approach where I was convinced that the entirety of the power of the tarot was in the subconscious mind, and that it was very practical and very scientific and could be proven why and how it worked, and it was very psychological, and it was very this and it was very that, and I had this very rigid idea of how it worked. And that definition helped me to connect with the tarot and to learn the tarot and to use the tarot. But then one day I'm reading with a deck of cards, and they were my soul cards, 1 and 2, which I talked about in a previous video. And I was reading for somebody, and I was just kind of like rolling with my intuition, just saying whatever popped into my head without censoring, which is when I give my best readings. And I just threw the cards down. I was like, yep, and this one's about a past life. And then I just kept going, and I was like, wait, screech, put on the brakes. What the hell did I just say? Because at this point in my personal practice, I didn't want to take tarot to this, or oracle cards or anything, to this kind of woo place. And that probably sounds nuts to some of you because you guys, I'm pretty woo. But at the time, I wanted to understand intellectually everything I did. And I wanted to have a sort of scientific explanation for everything I did and the way that I interacted with the cards and the way they interacted with me. And this just broke all of that in my head. And I just remember saying, yep, that was a past life. And I believe I was reading for Peggy. And she was like, wait, what? Hold on, rewind. Let's talk about that. And the next thing I know, we're just diving in and we're going layer upon layer upon layer, and we're going into past lives, and it was amazing. And I've given 100 past lives readings since then with these cards, most of them with close friends and family, most of them with Peggy and that sort of thing, and just diving into layers. But again, it sort of cracked open what I thought I understood about tarot and oracle and divination in general, and it shifted my perception. But it's because in that moment, I didn't get in the way of my intuition. This happened also recently with another client who I was actually speaking with on the phone, and I don't do a lot of phone readings, although I do now have that as an option available on my website, but it's very schedule dependent. So if that's something you're interested in, let me know. But what was really cool was that being on the phone gave me the freedom to grab any deck I wanted while I was talking to my client and to just throw cards and like listen and take in what she was saying and throw cards down. And it became this very organic process that is so different from me in every other part of my life. Like, I'm a very routine person. I like formulas. I like doing things the same way every time. And one thing that I've learned about reading tarot and oracle cards and doing divination in general is that it's like a completely different me in a way. It's a part of me that just gets out of my own way. It's a side of me that just allows for possibility and is open and lets things unfold the way that they're maybe meant to unfold without trying to necessarily control the process or the outcome. And it turns into this really magical experience. And I feel like I'm really babbling, but hopefully some of this is resonating, because these different reading experiences, what they have in common for me, whether it was my first phone reading, that oracle card reading with the soul cards that went into past lives, or essentially what ended up being a mediumship style tarot reading, what all of these things offered was an experience I had no idea was going to happen, was unexpected, and completely tilted my sort of worldview of how tarot worked on its head. And it was amazing. And I think that's really, really cool. The last two experiences I talked about, the first and the third. So the mediumship one and the phone one both happened in 2019. So those are the ones I'm officially sharing, but all three of those were super, super impactful for me. If you gave a really cool reading or even got a really cool reading that sort of shifted your perspective or was impactful in some way, I would love to hear about it. Remember to obviously protect people's privacy and all that good stuff, but I would love to hear about like the aha moments you've had or those like standout experiences with the cards that you've had. And remember that if you are participating in 31 Days of Tarot, I would love to hear about it. So you can let me know down below if you're on Instagram or you're vlogging or you're blogging or you're doing a VR, whatever it is, let me know. I am really, really enjoying watching all these responses come through for this because I look forward to Ethany's challenge every single year. I think she does a bang up job coming up with awesome prompts. And so I just love seeing what everybody responds with. So keep me posted on yours. Remember that if you want to book a reading, you can do that at supportivetarot.com. And remember to like, share, subscribe, and I will see you all soon. Bye.